You didn't let go to move on. You let go to rise, and they'll act unbothered, but they feel it every time the silence speaks louder than your love ever did. Let that line dig in, my friends, because this isn't about pretending not to care. It's not about playing games. This is about doing the one thing most people are too afraid to do: walk away with power. Not to escape the pain, but to become the lesson. You didn't let go to heal them. You let go so they'd feel what they never noticed while you were still showing up. And they will. Oh, they will. Not immediately, not publicly, but quietly, internally. In the dead silence of their own mind, that's where your absence starts screaming. See, most people don't change when they're comfortable. They change when they lose access. When they're finally locked out of the presence they took for granted. You were their constant, there without them having to earn it. You were the warmth they expected on demand, the voice that checked in, the soul that stayed soft, even when they grew cold. And now you're gone. No warning, no begging. Just a calm, surgical detachment that shakes them deeper than any fight ever could. That's the move, folks. That's the Stoic game. You don't throw tantrums. You don't explain your worth in paragraphs. You exit. Not out of weakness, but because you realized something they still don't get. You were the reward. Your presence was the privilege. Your energy was the gift. And now that you've withdrawn it, they're left standing in the emotional famine they created for themselves. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine a garden that never stopped blooming, always full of color, always watered, always tended to, because you made sure of it. But they walked through it with muddy shoes, picked the petals like they'd always grow back, tossed the beauty around like it was disposable. Then one day, no more garden, no more flowers, no more you. Now they're walking through concrete, wondering why nothing feels alive anymore. And that feeling, that emptiness, that's the lesson. My friends, don't fall for the act. They'll post like they're happier, they'll laugh a little louder, act healed, act unbothered. But listen to me closely. The louder they pretend to be fine, the deeper they're breaking inside. Because the truth about letting go with indifference is that it's surgical. It leaves no mess behind, just an echo of everything you used to bring. And that echo, it haunts. It follows them into every room, every conversation, every new connection that just doesn't hit like you did. And no, you're not doing this to punish them. You're doing it to teach them, to let them sit with what they destroyed, to let them realize that you were never too much. They were just too careless. And now that you're gone, they finally see what it feels like to lose something real. That realization, it's slow, but it stings, and eventually it humbles. That's when they come crawling, not because you begged, but because you didn't. So say it with me right now in the comments. I let go to rise. Type it, own it, claim it, because you didn't walk away out of weakness. You walked because your presence had value, and now they finally see it. Smash that like button if this already hit you in the chest. Hit subscribe because we're just getting started. And stay with me, folks, because next we're breaking down the myth of moving on and why their smile isn't peace. It's panic. Number 1. The myth of moving on. Why fake happiness is their armor. People pretend joy the loudest when they're drowning in regret. Let that punch land, my friends, because the world we live in, it's become a stage. Everyone's performing, acting fine, smiling wide, posting highlights with filters over their fear. But you and I both know the truth. The ones who move on the fastest are often the ones who are hurting the deepest. They're not happy. They're haunted. And the louder they pretend, the more it proves they're running from something they don't want to face. You. The way they treated you. The weight of what they lost. Let's talk about this myth. The myth of moving on. Because it's one of the biggest lies people swallow and sell. That someone's glow-up means they're healed. That a rebound means they've leveled up. That silence from them means peace. But real healing doesn't need to prove itself. Real peace doesn't need to parade. When someone truly moves on, you don't hear about it. They just disappear from the drama. But when they post more, laugh louder and flex harder right after you're gone, that's not healing. That's hiding. Let me give you a picture to sit with. Imagine someone walking through a battlefield with open wounds. Instead of slowing down to tend to their injuries, they grab a can of gold spray paint and cover the blood. From a distance, they look shiny, untouched, even polished. But under that layer of gold, they're bleeding out. That's what fake moving on looks like. It's decoration over damage. It's performance over peace. And that performance, it's not for them. It's for you, for your attention, for your reaction. Because they know your silence is watching. Your indifference isn't just absence. It's a mirror that reflects the choices they made, the chances they wasted, the softness they didn't respect. And trust me, no one looks into that mirror and smiles for long. But I know what's going through your head. I know the thoughts that creep in when you see them out there, living their best life. Were they never hurt? Did they move on faster because I didn't matter? Was I the only one who really cared? These thoughts, they're normal. They're rooted in the part of you that gave deeply, but they're also born from fear, from a mind that hasn't fully realized its own power. Because when someone loses you and masks the pain with celebration, that's not detachment. That's desperation in disguise. And here's the hard truth, my friends. Their fake glow-up isn't about you. It's about them trying to convince themselves that they're okay without you. It's the emotional version of putting a band-aid on a bullet wound. Because they don't want to sit with what they did. They don't want to feel the regret crawling up their spine. So instead, they grab distractions. New people, new scenes, loud music, temporary highs. But late at night, when the noise fades and the spotlight shuts off, that's when your absence gets loud. That's when your silence crawls into their head like a song they can't skip. Marcus Aurelius said, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." And you've leveled up your thoughts. You've chosen peace over petty. You didn't perform. You didn't post to prove. You pulled back. You let them have the stage while you rebuilt your soul backstage. That's not weakness. That's emotional mastery. That's Stoic strength. And sure, it's going to be hard. It's going to burn when you see them smiling with someone else or pretending your chapter never happened. But let me tell you something real. They remember. Every laugh, every look, every late-night talk. It's all stored in places they can't erase. They're not over it. They're overacting. The reason it feels so difficult for you to accept their happiness is because you gave something real, and real doesn't fade fast. You cared without pretending. You loved without conditions. And now that they've replaced presence with performance, it's easy to feel like maybe you were the fool. But you weren't. You were the truth in a world full of games. The real ones always hurt more when they walk away. Because when you go, you leave a hole, not a dent. Let me give you one more image. Think of a flame, steady, warm, Consistent. That was you. But they got used to it, thought it would always be there. So they walked away looking for fireworks, something loud, explosive, temporary. But what they forgot is this: fireworks don't last. They light the sky for a moment and leave nothing but smoke. But a steady flame, that lingers. It builds. It becomes the fire they try to recreate, but can never replicate. And now that you've gone cold, now that your fire is gone, they're left chasing sparks that never last. So don't be fooled by the show, folks. Don't get caught in the illusion. They're not happy. They're haunted. Haunted by the memory of someone who gave their all and left with nothing but silence. Haunted by your grace, your calm, your decision not to beg, not to react, not to chase. You became unforgettable not by making noise, but by disappearing with dignity. And let me tell you this: your indifference, that's the loudest sound in their life right now. Every time they open their phone and don't see your name. Every time they post and hope you'll react. Every time they try to laugh louder than the echo of what they lost. That's where you win. That's where you haunt. Not with hate, not with games, but with unbothered power. So type it in the comments right now. My indifference is power. Say it loud. Say it proud. Show yourself. Show the world. Because when you stop trying to prove you were the best, you let them live long enough to realize you were. And stay with me, because next we're diving even deeper into what indifference really is. Not coldness, not cruelty, but clarity. You'll learn why letting go doesn't make you heartless. It makes you untouchable. Let's keep going. Number 2. Emotional indifference is not apathy, it's ascension. You're not cold, you're calibrated. Let that one hit, my friends, because too many of you have been called heartless, distant or cold just because you stopped explaining yourself, just because you chose silence over chasing, just because you chose clarity over chaos. But let's clear something up right now. You didn't stop caring, you just stopped bleeding. And that shift? That's not apathy, that's ascension. That's you stepping into a place where your peace is no longer negotiable, where your emotions are no longer up for auction. See, emotional indifference isn't about shutting down, it's about leveling up. It's what happens when you've cried enough, begged enough, explained yourself to exhaustion, and finally realized that no amount of emotion can reach someone who's emotionally unavailable. That's when you snap out of survival mode. That's when you stop trying to be enough and remember that you already are. And in that moment, when your silence speaks louder than your sorrow ever could, that's the ascension. This is the heart of Stoic strength. It's not about pretending nothing hurts. Stoicism is not emotional numbness. It's emotional discipline. It's knowing that yes, you feel it, but you don't let it control you. You don't let it bend your standards. You don't let it drag you back into patterns that broke you. You sit with the feeling, you breathe through the storm, and you still choose to move with grace. That's not cold. That's control. That's not indifference to love. It's indifference to disrespect. Let me give you a metaphor. Picture yourself as a mountain. Tall, still, unshaken. The storm can howl, the rain can fall, the winds can scream. But the mountain doesn't move. The mountain doesn't chase the weather. That's you now. They can come and go, hot and cold, up and down, but you remain centered, not because you don't care, but because you care about yourself more than the chaos they bring. And here's what they'll try to do. They'll poke, they'll produce, they'll test, they'll say things just to get a rise out of you. Maybe they'll post something petty, Maybe they'll text you some half-hearted breadcrumb message. Why? Because they need a reaction. Your reaction was their fuel. Your emotion gave them control. And now that you've gone quiet, now that your energy is no longer in circulation, they feel the drought. And it bothers them. Don't get it twisted. When you stop reacting, it doesn't mean they've stopped caring. It means they've started wondering if you're over it, wondering why you're not chasing, wondering how someone they used to control suddenly became untouchable. And let me tell you something real, that wondering is your power. That confusion, it's a result of your growth. Because when people can no longer trigger you, they lose access to the version of you they could manipulate. And what scares them more than anything is you being okay without them. They'll say you've changed, that you've gone cold. But here's the truth. They never met this version of you before. They only knew the you who explained, who waited, who compromised. But the new you, the one who's calibrated, that version doesn't flinch. That version doesn't negotiate with nonsense. That version has boundaries built from experience and peace guarded by silence. And yes, it'll feel strange at first, because we're conditioned to believe that love equals reaction, that caring means constant engagement. But what they never taught you is this: real love also includes walking away when respect disappears. Real love includes silence when words are wasted. Real strength is not in clinging, it's in letting go without needing closure. So, if you're walking through this phase right now, feeling misunderstood, accused of being heartless just because you stopped picking up the pieces, you're not alone. You're just growing. You're ascending into emotional maturity that most people aren't ready to meet. And guess what? That's okay. You're not here to be understood by the crowd. You're here to be aligned with your peace. Marcus Aurelius said, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." That's the kind of self-control you're stepping into. You don't owe anyone your reaction. You don't owe anyone access to your softness if they haven't earned it. You can care and still cut the cord. You can love and still leave. Because your silence isn't empty. It's loaded with meaning. So say it with me in the comments right now. I'm not cold. I'm calibrated. Type it. Own it. Show yourself. Show the world. Because when you master your emotions, when you move from noise to nuance, when you stop reacting to prove your worth, that's when they finally see it. Smash that like button if this chapter just unlocked something inside you. Hit that subscribe because we're not done yet. Stay with me, my friends, because next we're stepping into the storm of energy shifts. And why, the second you pull back, they start to feel everything you stopped giving. Let's keep going. Number 3. The law of energetic balance. When you pull back, they feel the vacuum. You didn't disappear. You created space, and they hate what filled it. That one right there, sit with it. Let it cut through the noise, because it's not about you being absent. It's about them finally noticing your presence by feeling your absence. You didn't vanish to disappear into nothingness. No, my friends. You vanished to restore energetic balance. And the moment you pulled back, that shift hit them harder than any argument ever could. Not because you screamed, not because you slammed the door, but because you stopped pouring into someone who never checked if your cup was full. Here's what no one talks about. Energy is currency, emotional currency, and you were spending like a millionaire in a connection that kept overdrafting your peace. attention, care, time, softness, presence. You gave it all, consistently, unconditionally. You kept the fire burning while they took the heat for granted. And now that you've pulled back, now that the warmth is gone and the room's gone cold, they feel it, not immediately, not publicly, but deeply, in the silence, in the empty spaces where your energy used to live. Let me paint you a picture, because visuals hit different. Imagine a room full of noise, laughter, voices, chaos. In that room, no one notices the hum of the air conditioner. It's just there, constant, dependable. But then one day the hum stops. Silence, sudden, stark. Now everyone notices, not because the sound was loud, but because its disappearance changed the whole atmosphere. That's you. You were the emotional air in the room, the steady hum, the reliable comfort. And when you stopped, they noticed. The energy shifted, the comfort vanished, the vibe dropped. That's what the law of energetic balance is all about. When someone keeps receiving without reciprocating, they grow numb, comfortable, entitled. They start believing your giving is just your nature. But then you pull back, not out of spite, but out of survival. You recalibrate. And in that recalibration, they're thrown off balance, because now they have to feel the weight of what they never acknowledged. And here's where the discomfort kicks in. The mind hates imbalance. It hates it. Psychology tells us we're wired to seek equilibrium. When something changes in a system, especially emotionally, the brain scrambles to restore it. So, when you stop texting first, stop checking in, stop overextending, their nervous system feels it, and suddenly your absence creates a vacuum, a space they didn't expect, a silence they can't fill. Because you weren't just part of the connection, you were the connection, the glue, the anchor, the emotional heartbeat they never thanked, but always relied on. But I know the fear that creeps in. What if they don't care? What if they like the space? What if my absence means nothing? Those questions come from the part of you that's still healing, that still wants to believe your effort was seen. But let me tell you the truth, my friends. They noticed, even if their pride won't say it, even if their ego posts louder, even if they run to someone else. They noticed, because energetic shifts leave traces. And when you stop showing up, their mind starts asking questions, not just about you, but about themselves. Why do they feel hollow all of a sudden? Why does the attention from someone else not hit the same? Why does your silence echo where their confidence used to be? That's when they realize you were the emotional center, the one who brought the stability, the spark, the grounding. You made them feel seen. And now they're surrounded by noise that doesn't understand them the way your silence used to. That discomfort, that ache, that's the price of imbalance catching up. Marcus Aurelius said, "The universe is change, our life is what our thoughts make it." When you pulled back, you created change, not just for you, but for them. And their thoughts? They're catching up fast. They're rerunning conversations, rereading old texts, replaying the version of themselves that only existed in your presence. Because that's what people miss the most, not just you, but the version of themselves they liked more when you were around. And yeah, it hurts. It hurts to be the one who gave so much, to walk away knowing they may never admit what you meant. But this is your strength. You didn't disappear. You created space. You allowed the void to speak the truth you were tired of saying. You let the imbalance reveal itself. So write this in the comments right now. I created space. They felt the shift. Say it loud. Say it proud. Show yourself. Show the world. Because the moment you stop over-giving is the moment they start overthinking. That's the balance. That's the power. Smash that like button if this truth hit you right in the soul. Hit subscribe, because next, we're unlocking what happens when they try to fill your space with someone else and realize real can't be replaced. Stay with me. Let's go deeper. Number 4, the illusion of replacement. Why no one can replicate what you were. They can copy your moves, but not your meaning. Let that sink deep, my friends, because sooner or later, they'll try it. They'll try to replace you, mask the loss, bury the echo. You'll see new faces, new names, and new smiles plastered across their stories like nothing happened. But don't flinch. Don't spiral. Don't buy the performance, because what they're doing isn't healing, it's hiding. What they're chasing isn't peace, it's proximity to what you made them feel. But here's the truth, they'll never say out loud, you weren't a role they can recast. You were a presence they can't recreate. Let me break this down clearly. Rebounds are emotional Novocaine. They don't cure the pain. They just numb it for a while, and like all numbing agents, it wears off. Fast. Because those new connections, they're not about love. They're about escape. They're not about building. They're about distracting. It's not about someone new making them feel whole. It's about someone new helping them forget the one who actually did. And you, my friend, you weren't just someone they liked. You were the source. You brought depth, substance, stillness. You weren't just present. You were intentional. The way you listened, the way you understood, the way your energy could shift an entire day without saying a word. That kind of impact, that doesn't get replaced. That gets remembered. Imagine a radio trying to tune into a frequency that no longer exists. Static, fragments, brief flickers of sound. That's what they're dealing with now. You were the frequency they tuned their world to. And now that you're gone, every conversation, every date, every new vibe feels just a little off, just a little flat, just a little empty. They may smile, but it won't hit the soul the same. They may laugh, but they'll notice it doesn't echo like it used to. Because you weren't just entertainment, you were alignment. But I know what you're thinking. If I was so irreplaceable, why'd they move on so fast? Why didn't they fight for me? Why didn't they say anything when I left? And here's the hard truth. People don't always realize what they had until they try to recreate it and fail. They didn't move on. They moved around. Big difference, because movement isn't progress. And just because they're moving doesn't mean they're healing. Sometimes motion is just a distraction dressed up as a glow-up. Here's a little psychology for you. The brain is wired to seek familiarity. So when someone loses something meaningful, their first instinct isn't to sit in solitude. It's to replace the rhythm, to find something that feels similar. But when they try to plug someone else into the space you filled, it doesn't fit. Not quite. Because they can copy your timing, your tone, your gestures, but not your energy. And when someone's used to deep waters, shallow conversations feel like noise. Marcus Aurelius said, "Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself." That's the lesson you've already learned. But they haven't, because they're still looking outside for what they lost inside. And what they lost wasn't just you. It was how they felt when they were around you, grounded, seen, understood. You mirrored their better self. And now that mirror's gone, they're stuck looking into glass that doesn't reflect anything real. They'll try to act unaffected. You'll see it, posed photos, subtle jabs, vague captions, all of it just to provoke something in you, to prove they're okay. But remember this, if they truly moved on, they wouldn't need to prove it. Peace is quiet. Confidence doesn't flex. The need to be seen, that's just insecurity in disguise. And here's the wildest part, they might even convince themselves it's working. For a while, until the quiet creeps in. Until the new person doesn't understand their silence the way you did. Until they're staring at someone else's face and still hearing your laugh in the back of their head. That's not obsession. That's emotional imprint. That's you. Still echoing, still living rent-free in the spaces they tried to decorate with strangers. So no, you don't need to be replaced. You don't need to compete. You don't need to prove a single thing. Because your meaning can't be mimicked. Your essence can't be edited. What you brought to the table wasn't trendy. It was timeless. So write this in the comments right now. I can't be replaced. Say it loud. Say it proud. Show yourself. Show the world. Because you weren't just a chapter, they're now flipping through pages that don't make sense without your presence. Smash that like button if this reminded you of your worth. Hit subscribe because next we're diving into one of the coldest truths. Why indifference hits harder than any goodbye. And how your silence is the one thing they'll never recover from. Stay with me. Let's keep rising. Number 5. Why indifference hits harder than anger. Anger means you still care. Indifference, that's a closed chapter. Let that one crack through the noise, my friends, because this is where the game flips. This is the part they don't see coming. They expect anger. They expect fire. They expect the emotional explosion that proves they still live rent-free in your heart. But when they get nothing, no reaction, no rage, no explanation, that's when the panic sets in. Because anger keeps the door cracked open. Indifference, that slams it shut. You see, anger still feeds the bond. It may be bitter, but it's a bond nonetheless. It says, I still care enough to fight. It leaves room for interaction, for conflict, for conversation, for chaos. And that's what they're counting on. They'll test you. They'll poke the wound. They'll bait you with mixed signals, with cryptic texts, with staged posts, just hoping to ignite something, anything. Because as long as you're reacting, they still feel relevant. As long as you're emotionally charged, they still feel powerful. But when you go silent, when you respond with nothing but peace, that's not weakness, that's strategy. That's you stepping into a place of such unshakable control that your calm becomes their crisis. Because people can prepare for conflict. They know how to navigate anger. They've seen the fire before. But indifference, that's foreign territory. That's emotional black ice. And when they slip, they realize you're no longer playing the game. They're playing themselves. Let me give you a picture to bring this home. Imagine they're standing in front of a locked door. They knock. Nothing. They yell. Nothing. They try the handle. Still nothing. There's no sound behind the door. No movement, no clues, just silence. That silence, that's your power now. That's what makes them spiral. Because as long as they can hear you on the other side, they still feel in control. But when it goes dead quiet, they're left with the one thing they've spent their life avoiding, themselves. And here's where the Stoic part kicks in. Because indifference isn't about pretending you don't feel. Stoicism doesn't ask you to be numb. It asks you to be so self-aware, so emotionally intelligent that you choose your response, not your reaction. You might still feel sadness. You might still remember the good. You might even miss them sometimes. But you don't reach out. You don't chase. You don't perform. That's not cold. That's mastery. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." And in this moment, your strength is found in detachment. Not because you hate them, not because you want revenge, but because you finally see your peace as non-negotiable. You refuse to leak energy just to prove you care. You refuse to speak just to be heard by someone who stopped listening long ago. And yes, they'll call you names. Cold, heartless, immature. That's just ego talking. That's just them lashing out because they lost the control they thought they had over your emotions. They'll say you changed. But really? You upgraded. You evolved past the version of yourself that needed to explain your worth to people who never saw it. But I know it's hard. I know everything inside you might scream to say something, to defend yourself, to remind them of how much you gave. But here's what you've got to understand. Peace isn't the absence of noise. It's the refusal to engage with it. And when you refuse to engage, you become unreachable. That's what they didn't expect. That's what breaks them. Because deep down, they know anger would have been easier. Anger would have been a signal that the door's still open. But indifference, that means you're not waiting anymore. You're not available for drama. You've stepped off the stage, and now they're stuck performing for an empty room. That realization, it hurts more than anything you could have said. So if you're standing in that silence right now, don't break it. Don't send that message. Don't explain your detachment. Let the stillness do the talking. Let the peace be the echo. Because nothing shakes someone more than the realization that they no longer have access to the version of you who cared enough to argue. Say it with me in the comments right now. My silence is strength. Say it loud. Say it proud. Show yourself. Show the world. Because when you let go of the need to react, you let go of their power over you. Smash that like button if this one hit where it needed to. Hit subscribe. Because next, we're digging into why your quiet absence becomes the loudest thing in their life. And how what you walked away from will chase you in echoes they can't silence. Stay with me. We're not done yet. Number 6. Your absence is the real flex. Not revenge, but reverence. You didn't ghost. You exited the arena, and now they're performing to no audience. Let that shake something loose in you, my friends, because there's a massive difference between disappearing to hurt someone and stepping away to heal yourself. You didn't vanish to play games. You didn't go quiet to get revenge. You walked away because the stage was burning, the applause had stopped, and you finally realized the performance wasn't worth the pain. That's not ghosting. That's clarity. That's self-respect in motion. And now, they're left performing for a crowd that no longer exists. Absence, when done from power, not pettiness, is one of the loudest messages you'll ever send. Because silence, it forces reflection. It creates space for accountability to creep in. See, as long as you were there, texting, explaining, defending, waiting, they never had to face the consequences of their behavior. But now that you're gone, now that your energy's not available on demand, they're not just losing you, they're losing the version of themselves that only felt whole when you were watching. You didn't ask for closure. You became it. And that's the part that stings them the most. Because closure isn't a conversation, it's a decision. It's the moment you realized no amount of explaining would change someone who was committed to misunderstanding you. It's the moment you stopped hoping for them to fix it and started fixing yourself. That shift? That's reverence. That's sacred. That's what makes your absence unforgettable. You didn't scream. You didn't beg. You left with grace. And now your silence is louder than their pride can handle. Let me give you a visual. Imagine a performer on stage. They're used to the lights, the cheering, the constant energy. You were the one in the front row, every show, every time, clapping when no one else did, staying after to help pick up the mess. But now you're gone, chairs empty, spotlights still on, and suddenly their best performance feels hollow, because the audience that actually mattered isn't watching anymore. And that's when the cracks start to show. That's when the posts get more desperate, the jokes get louder, the fake glow-up pics increase, because your absence is creating a void, and instead of facing it, they're trying to fill it with likes, with distractions, with people who don't know their patterns like you did. But it's all noise, because what they want isn't validation, it's your validation. And when that disappears, they start to question everything they used to be so sure of. But I know what you're feeling. You might still wonder, do they even miss me? Are they happier without me? Was I just easy to forget? These are the echoes of old wounds. But let me remind you, if you were forgettable, they wouldn't need to perform so hard. If you were truly replaced, they wouldn't be forcing the illusion of happiness so aggressively. The ones who forget don't flaunt. The ones who are free don't perform. That's not peace you're seeing. It's panic. It's them realizing too late that losing you didn't just change the relationship. It shifted their entire rhythm. Marcus Aurelius said, "Waste no more time arguing what a good person should be. Be one." And that's exactly what you've done. You stopped debating. You stopped proving. You became the standard. And now, in your absence, they're left measuring every new connection against the person who never needed a spotlight to shine. That's why your absence hits different. It wasn't an act. It was a revelation. So no, your silence isn't a punishment. It's not coldness. It's not indifference. It's reverence for your own soul. It's the understanding that you don't have to be present to still be powerful. You don't have to explain your exit to make it meaningful. You walked away without burning the bridge, but now they're standing at the edge, realizing you were the only one who ever crossed it with love. Say it in the comments right now. My absence is sacred. Type it, feel it, own it, because you didn't disappear to be petty. You disappeared to protect your peace. And now they finally see what they lost, not just a person, but the presence that made everything feel whole. Smash that like button if your silence has become your strength. Hit subscribe, because next we're diving into how being unforgettable isn't about being loud. It's about being irreplaceable. We're not done yet, my friends. Stay with me. Let's keep rising. Number 7. The silent comparison. Why every new connection gets measured against you. You became the standard, and everything else now feels like a substitute. That's the truth, my friends. They didn't forget you. They measure everyone else against you. You're not some memory-gathering dust. You're the benchmark their nervous system quietly compares every new face to. See, when someone's been loved deeply, they don't just move on. They try to replicate the feeling. But your emotional imprint, it rewired them. The way you listened, the way you understood without them saying a word. That kind of connection, becomes a reflex they start seeking in everyone else. But here's the twist. New doesn't mean better. It just means different. And in most cases, it means less. Less depth, less understanding, less real. And that's when your silence starts to speak louder than their new beginnings. When they realize you weren't just someone, you were the one who brought alignment. So say it in the comments right now. I am the standard. Say it proud. Say it strong. Show yourself. Show the world. And stay with me, because next we're breaking down how emotional detachment isn't distance. It's domination. Number 8. Freedom is the real glow-up. How your detachment exposes their dependency. They thought they moved on, but they just moved around. That's the difference, my friends. They're not evolving, they're recycling, running in emotional circles while pretending it's growth. Meanwhile, you detached. You didn't just leave a situation, you broke a cycle. You chose clarity over chaos, peace over patterns. And that's the real glow-up. Not a new person, not a fake smile, not a rebound. Freedom. Because when you detach, truly detach, you don't just walk away, you rise. You become untouchable, and suddenly your indifference becomes haunting. Not because you're cold, but because your calm forces them to face their own emotional noise. Your silence holds up a mirror, and it shows them the truth they've been running from. They didn't grow. They just grabbed someone new to distract from the version of themselves they never changed. You walked out free. They stayed in their loop. And now they're watching you shine, unbothered, unrushed, unattached, while they spin in the same cycle that cost them you. And that brings us full circle, my friends. If you've made it this far, you already know. Letting go isn't weakness, it's wisdom. Your silence isn't revenge, it's revelation. You didn't walk away to be missed. You walked away to be free. So keep rising. Keep choosing peace over performance, clarity over chaos. If this hit you in the heart, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who needs the reminder. Smash that like button, hit subscribe, and drop your favorite affirmation in the comments. Let them feel your growth, even in your absence. We're just getting started. Stay with me.